Reinhardt had a weird yet easy upbringing of a character. After all, he was the tank character. A lot of HP, had a shield with a big old hammer. And to the influx of new players, Reinhardt was very fun. The shield allowed you to hold your ground very well, and if somebody did challenge you, you would just smack them and win, because you had 500 HP. And unlike today's Overwatch, it would take heavy focus fire to bring a Reinhardt down, meaning no one could duel him. Unless you brought a tank of your own. And, well, what do I mean of a tank of your own? Well, you gotta remember, this was 2016 Overwatch.
Excuse me, what the
2-2-2
actual
wasn't a thing, no limits wasn't comp, and everyone was bad at the game. Out of the 5 tanks available, you were lucky to see 1 in a match. Plus, there was a heavy amount of things that destroyed tanks. But that's fine, because you got another tank to protect you. Sombra released, and she was rightfully trash. The other thing that happened near Sombra's release was Ana getting gigabuffed to be more in line with the other supports, yet she already was very strong. This led to a Season 2 meta centered around the tank. Lucio's speed boost was needed for Reinhardt. Ana had insane healing, with Nano being so overpowered. Zarya could cover for the Reinhardt and get easy charge. Mei could wall players off and just assist Reinhardt by getting easy kills. And Reaper would just stick with a Reinhardt and kill the enemy Reinhardt. This entire meta was revolved around this character, and it's crazy thinking how far Reinhardt would be able to go if he was already so strong. But with Ana and Zarya nerfs to come, there became a new wave. Well, what if you just ditch the second DPS and just focus on living? Well, yeah, this is what players thought, and triple tank became a thing, and all had Reinhardt. He was the only one with heavy damage mitigation, so he must be included in such combos. And the thing you will see with Reinhardt is the Lucio Ana. This combo is basically needed with Reinhardt, since you need Lucio for the speed boost, and you need Ana for her healing, or else you just get blown up and die. You gotta remember that Reinhardt was absurdly sluggish around this time as well, with him holding his shield about, having his movement speed. But yet with the entire meta revolving around this one character, nobody seemed to complain about him. Reinhardt was seen everywhere, in all ranks of play, but yet he was seen as fair to go against, and he was very adaptable. Why didn't he get nerfed? Well, dying to a Reinhardt is because of your bad positioning, and it's your fault as a player for getting close to the guy with a giant hammer. This contrasts with Roadhog going around corners and one-shotting you, while D.Va had an effective HP of 900 that could hit you with 300 DPS. Well, it's because of fun. That's why Kiriko has been good for an entire year.
It's like being made for Kiriko. Like, dude, I swear my mom could play this hero. It's so easy.
But with this Season 3 comp getting dumpstered, it came for a new wave. Dive. Reinhardt's entire kit revolves around his shield and closing the distance. Dive ignores the shield, and nobody allows him to close the distance. So he watches while his entire team gets massacred. Thing is, you need skill to play these characters, and for the majority of the player base, they don't got it. So while Reinhardt was okay in high ladder, he dominated in low ladder. He requires no aim, people just waltz into his hammer, and everybody shoots the tank. Except the tank has 2500 HP. This led to a crazy difference in Reinhardt's performance, where every good player says he sucks and needs buffs, only for those buffs to not happen because he will dominate low elo. There was one era of a very strange comp purely to counter one specific character, Poke. Poke is basically where you just camp your ass in the back and get a pick on enemies off of mistakes, right? Well, why was Poke so good? Well, Mercy was god tier busted after her rework.
And he's back again. There you go. Okay. And then you're back again, boys. And we're back again, boys.
Basically, if you were to play Mercy and the enemy didn't, they lost, leading to a 100% pick rate of a character. She was not only broken, she was so broken that it dictated what every other person picked. This led to Dive becoming hard meta, which was not good for our Hammer boy. Yet all hope was not lost, for Blizzard's last few years were completely overtuned, and nobody was expecting what would happen next. With this update, they were addressing the staleness of the game. The meta had been the same for an entire year, and people were getting fed up.
I would rather do push-ups. I would rather lose weight. I would rather run a mile.
And she counters a lot of heroes that are very powerful right now, so we think she'll really mix up the way that the game's being played.
Just her base stats with her healing and her ult and everything in her kit is just extremely strong, and it shuts down a lot of the DPS characters that used to be played and allow for the more traditional, as we know, like GOATs or 3-3 comps.
Reinhardt fit perfectly into this 3-tank, 3-support comp, since he is a chunky boy and there was no problem closing the distance. With the general sustain and speed from the supports, as well as the aid from his off-tanks, he perfectly fit into the GOAT's lineup. Since the game was becoming more on cooldown management, this gave rise to the MTD, where it was a dick measuring contest on who got shattered. This was the golden era of Reinhardt. He was easily the most versatile character in the game. He was good for noobs and pros, good at all ranks of play, and a must-pick in Overwatch League since no other character offered what he brought.
Hold it. Run that back.
Additionally, Reinhardt ult was very strong, since the only way to counter Reinhardt was to have one of your own, cause getting shattered meant death, cause the broken defensive support cooldowns were not a thing. Blizzard had multiple ways of trying to combat GOATs. They tried Giga buffing Reaper, Mei,
Kill yourself now.
Orisa, Hog, and nothing worked, so they eventually just gave up and went to 2-2-2. Orisa Hog was born, and oh wait, double sniper is back. Not exactly the best time for a Reinhardt. Your shield would get absolutely destroyed by the absurd amount of damage, then you would get discorded, hooked, and die. Basically, these were the meta characters, and they all ripped you to shreds. But the good thing is, Hog Orisa didn't last for long, because a new character entered the ring. Sigma. Now, Sigma was an Overwatch 2 tank in Overwatch 1, except way better. His rock left click one-shot, he had a 1500 health shield. The only downside of him was that he could be pestered from diving. Thing is, a little bit before that, Baptiste was introduced, which completely denied any dive. And if you just want to make sure, you could also run Brig, because Brig Bap basically made it impossible to dive the backline. So basically, to play the game, all you had to do was either go on the front line and destroy 2000 HP of shields, and then Mei walls, and basically just a ton of HP tanks with Immortality Field, and if you dive the back line, you would get absolutely stomped by Brig Bap. Meanwhile, in most ranks, they had their own version of double shield. One pro-estimate, though, is that being released of Reinhardt got his first change after, well, almost 2 years. That isn't, a bug fix. A 30% knockback resistance. Reinhardt was getting prone to getting knocked around and bullied with a heavy amount of CC. The devs realized 30% was enough, so they buffed it to 50. Additionally, the movement speed was increased with a slight shield nerf. Now, this made him actually playable in high ladder, and since these two characters got their power nerf from God's 10 not becoming an instant win, Reinhardt got a little bit of play, of course, with Zarya. But there became a new problem. Reinhardt was still a very strong tank down the middle ranks, and with his buff, he was wiping the floor with low lobbies, having a 70% win rate. And although barely getting any play in high lobbies, Reinhardt would receive the infamous 2.5 second shatter. Now, I know this was because they were cracking down on the absurd amount of stuns in the game, with multiple other stuns receiving nerf, but the difference is Reinhardt is that he wasn't a good character. The other three that received nerfs were very strong. With the major nerf of Reinhardt getting his steadfast passive heavily nerfed, the shatter nerf was completely unnecessary. The reasoning why he had such a high win rate was not just because of low levels, was because of the newly introduced ban system. And a lot of the bans happened to be a lot of characters that were good in double shield, which heavily hurt Reinhardt. Outside of some overpowered things like Echo or one-shot Ashe, people tended to not care about the meta. That is because the game was basically dead. People really didn't care about winning or gaining SR. People just wanted to play the game to have fun, right? What the main point of it is. So Reinhardt, being the most fun tank, was getting a lot of play. And with some pretty questionable balance changes, Reinhardt just sat and waited for his return. And then it dropped, Overwatch 2, and now there became one tank only. And when I saw these stats with the new format, I knew he would dominate everybody because, well, you have one tank, and Reinhardt has the most mitigation out of any tank on the roster. So surely Reinhardt will be good.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth.
Well, actually Reinhardt became very good. The beta made Reinhardt absolutely broken. Now, what exactly did they change? Well, Charge. Charge got a very strange rework. Basically, Charge went from the worst part of his kit to the best. Before, pressing this button was suicide. Now you can actually steer it, and more importantly, cancel it, giving him a lot more playmaking. Thing is, they nerfed the damage just enough to not be able to kill 250 HP targets, meaning not only are pinning tanks worse, but Reaper and Mei, horrible matchups for Reinhardt, are even more of a hard counter. He's also got 2 fire strikes, but they nerfed the damage to 90. This might be kind of weird to say, but this is actually a nerf. You get less ult charge, you can't one-shot tires, and most importantly, 2 fire strikes don't do anything. You just need 1. Also, they took away the 400 health shield, and they gave him 100 armor and 50 health, which is an absurd amount. I don't think you realize how strong, and neither did the devs. So before the game actually dropped, they didn't want to run a broken Reinhardt, so they nerfed it. So, Season 1 came out, and Zarya was mega busted. So, pretty good for the Rein mains. Now, let's see what Season 2... Oh. If you don't remember, there was a rock, paper, scissors meta, where you would continuously change tanks to counter the enemy tank, where all 3 of these were S tier. Thing is, while the enemy tanks could pick rock, paper, or scissors, Reinhardt players' only option was dust, because you got absolutely shafted every game. Now, the Overwatch developers realized he was the worst tank in the game, other than this goober, so they gave him some much needed tune-up. This basically means that people won't get launched out of your melee range, which was hella annoying, but the big change was the changes to the Shatter. Although the Shatter one-shot was removed, now that it's 2.75 seconds, you can do a swing fire strike before they can even get up. Also, there was a slight buff to fire strike, basically only really changing 3 things: killing tires, killing with window, and being able to 2-shot button somebody, which basically never happened. And although Ball was hard meta, these changes allowed Reinhardt to actually be a strong pick in lower elo, and actually be a tank in higher elo. Problem is, Reinhardt was too much of a strong pick in lower elo, to the point he had a 60% win rate, which is a very unhealthy win rate to be at, but it's Reinhardt, the most healthy character in the game. Compared to other tanks, when Reinhardt is meta, the game is in a good state. It is fun to play with and against Reinhardt, so him being strong is a good thing. That is one of the many reasons people love the early seasons compared to the later seasons, is that a lot of these strong characters were fun to go against, whereas now they're making all the fun characters bad and all the infuriating characters good. Reinhardt was nerfed yet again in Season 4 with minus 50 armor and plus 25 HP. And you gotta remember, this is the second time this has happened. So while Reinhardt became still viable in lower ladder, he got absolutely obliterated once you reach Diamond, unless you're running an entire comp built around him, which never happens in Ranked. This is not how Overwatch Reinhardt was, where he was constantly a threat back then. And the later seasons didn't help him whatsoever. Season 6 rolled out with Bap, Orisa, Bastion being meta, and all they gave to Reinhardt was a 200 HP buff to his shield. Now this is a band-aid fix to fix the insane amount of power creep, but they buffed his survivability with his shield and not his health. I don't know what the reasoning for this is, since why nerf his survivability, but buff the survivability a few months later in the most unhealthy aspect. Shields are not fun to shoot, and they are also not fun to use. There was a ton of CC around this time, and out of all the tanks, CC affects Reinhardt the most, since even just a little boop can make you ineffective. Brig Whip Shot, Brig Old Dash, Lucio boop, Alari boop, Zen Kick, Ana Sleep, Junkrat Mines, Pharah boop. Characters that hard counter you are insane as well. Season 7 was the same thing, and now we get to Season 8. I've never thought a hammer swing would actually heal the enemy. Big Boy shreds your shield, then shreds you, and if you try to run, he presses Q. Now, going against Mauga is not game over, but it's not fun. Same said with a horse. The problem is when they have multiple counters, and this gameplay looks uncommon, but no. 90% of my games, they go Orisa or Mauga, and if they're losing, even more tank counters. You can counterplay some bad character matchups because you got the shield, but like, look at this. While this terrorist was put to sleep, we got some of the biggest changes ever with a buff to all HP, hitboxes, and healing reduction. The HP change to Reinhardt put his health to the original Overwatch 2 beta, is what I would say since the beta had more. The hitbox change did nothing, since you can't really miss the guy. There were some actual changes to the big guy, basically scaling his damage across the board, buffing his swing damage by 17 and charge by 50 HP. but very few characters got an increase in damage, so thinking that every time Taku got nerfed except Reinhardt. Well, it looked like Reinhardt was finally. The 20% healing reduction was way stronger than people gave it credit for. Sure, the TTK didn't change much for your hammer, but yours definitely did. Plus, what good is a hammer swing if you couldn't hit anybody? Sure, in low elo, people just love to face tank a Reinhardt, but good players know to press the S key. And Season 10 was the same. A new hero got added that everybody forgot about 2 weeks later, but more importantly is the Reinhardt buffs. A buff to his HP, but also the Fire Strike damage got buffed to 120. Now, is this at any breakpoints? No, but they don't want to put Window Fire Strike back, since it is a one-shot, and they don't want one-shots in their. Was Reinhardt any better? No, so they decided to buff Shatter. Now you might be wondering, why is Shatter bad? Well, little guy, it's cause of this. In low elo, people play together. Everybody shoots through a single choke and everyone is right behind the tank, while the higher you go, the more independent people play. Most of your shatters will be solo shatters, and you can't solo shatter because of Suzu. You have to wait for the Suzu, or else the ability will completely invalidate your ultimate, and since Kiriko is the best support in the game, that is in every game for the past year, however actively pressing E is just a skill issue. When these defensive cooldowns were not in the game, Shatter was an S tier ultimate, but because anyone who gets Shatter can just someone press E on them, it doesn't feel good, because the counterplay is to wait. So with an upcoming Shatter buff, I thought they were going to remove Suzu's cleanse of the ultimates, but instead, they buffed it to 3 seconds. While I do get the buff, it doesn't remove the core frustration. Getting stunned longer is not fun, and your 3-minute cooldown only to get cleansed is not fun. But later in Season 10, there was also a global tank change. Basically, tanks are now broken. So, after all of these insane buffs, is Reinhardt finally good? No. Just go hop.
What is up, everybody? Willem over here. I'm back with some Overwatch for you guys, and this time around I got a compilation of my favorite plays that I've gotten the past week or so of my favorite hero in the game, Reinhardt.
Help from the rest of your team, and this is also a reason to why it's a viable combo, even when there's only 2 of you partied up.
I could probably charge. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Okay, slap him. Come on, slap him, finish him off. Yeah, there we go.
You can't really synergize with them as well as someone like a Zarya or as well as somebody like a Winston. Reinhardt just doesn't synergize way too greatly with those characters, except for your ultimates. So if you can't happen to stall for a long time, get a lot of nice E's and get your ultimates in there, then you can synergize well.
To progress while there are shock players present. And now they have to throw everything at this one. Super Shatter into Graviton Surge. Sinatra's right there. There's a lot of damage coming from the shock right now. And Bump has fallen once again. The main tank for the Titans missing once more.
Back again. That's top life. Got him. That's top right there.
Charging Donna. Oh, I miss.
Fuck.
It's a matter of missing a fuck.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Die with glory, old friend.